Welcome to the Peak News and the golden age of the Pikes Peak region. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. Happy to have you joining us for Government and Politics Tuesday here as we broadcast out across the entire Pikes Peak region. And yesterday at the inauguration, President Trump, number 45, now number 47 president, said that we started his whole speech after thanking the dignitaries in attendance, that we are in a golden age for America. And I agree with that. I really do. I'm not Democrat, I'm not Republican, I'm a small government conservative. And so anything that's going to make the government smaller, that's going to let us be Americans, that we have this whole manifest destiny that he talked about yesterday. It's not just drill baby drill, but in a way sort of invade baby invade. Like, we've forgotten that countries can be expansionist. It seems that ever since we got the 50th state here in America, we decided that that's a nice round number, and meanwhile nations all over the world have been taking territory, and we don't think about that as Americans anymore. We've been convinced that that's imperialism, in a way it is, but that is the way of the world. The world is in flux, and if it is an advantage to the United States in order to have a territory, not that we should take it in war, but to even consider that the borders of the United States are not necessarily fixed is such an interesting concept for us as Americans. I think that, if you ever studied that, manifest destiny, who is the United States? What do we represent on the world scale? It's like we've forgotten it. In my lifetime over the past 50, 60 years, that we've forgotten who we are. But if we really do hold to a constitutional republic, and that we stand for the inalienable rights that were given to all people, not just Americans, but all people from the Creator himself, then we can be a force for good around the world. But as we all know, that our country has, under all administrations, especially since through a lot of those three-letter organizations, has actually become a force around the world that people hate. We really do, all that we've done. But we can still be a force of good, first for ourselves and then for the rest of the world. And so I'm looking forward to that golden age. But as we know, and we say on the program here a lot, can't do much in D.C., can hardly do much up in Denver, but here in Colorado Springs, El Paso County, the Pikes Peak region, hey, this is our place, this is our home. We can do everything here. In fact, we're supposed to be doing everything here, we the people, not dependent on the government, but being the government, and in our small or big way have an impact. Here I'm on the radio, and this is what I do. What do you do? As far as I'm concerned, we have 2 years to the midterms. We don't know what it's going to be like after that, but for 2 years, I think that we're in a very, very good position to be free and to practice those freedoms. And I encourage you to do so. And my only lament is, hey, we're 24 hours in. What have we done? Because the clock is ticking. So today's show is the golden age of the Pikes Peak region. And my co-host for the hour is Jeff Anderson, Pastor Jeff Anderson, who is part of the Salem Network here. He does Crosswalk a couple days a week on our Bible teaching and talk station, The Word. But he has been, for the past 8 years, the faith, I believe, all 8 years? The faith, for 8 years, what's it been? Was it?
Yeah, about 8 years, that's right.
Faith liaison to the local community for now former Congressman Doug Lamborn, and now Congressman Jeff Crank. So, Jeff Anderson, thanks so much for being here on the Peak.
Watchman, it's good to be with you. Thanks for including me today.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very excited because, he works for elected officials, but they come and they go. But the consistency of those who work with them, I mean, this is great that Jeff Crank has retained you to continue doing what you're doing here, because no one knows better. Jeff knows everybody, and especially from the faith side, but also, business and politics and everything else. And so looking forward to hearing from Jeff what his plans are and what it's like, what he can tell us about working under his new boss, Congressman Jeff Crank from CD5. We're also in the next segment for headlines. As long as he's not in the middle of a vote, Scott Bottoms, House District Rep and Pastor Scott Bottoms will be giving us a legislative update. We'll be talking about how Trump's agenda and what he did on day one could have great impact here in the Colorado Springs region. And then with all those J6ers pardoned, we're having Tom Hamner back, who served over 2 years for J6 offenses. He's now been pardoned, and he is helping J6ers come back into their communities with a program called J6 Road Home. You're listening to The Peak. It's the golden age of the Pikes Peak region. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman, and we'll be right back. Okay.
Cool.
We got 4 minutes.
4-minute break.
So he's gonna call Scott, and we'll know what we're doing.
Sounds good.
And
is he able to make calls from in here, or is he running it from over here?
in there.
Good.
That's the booth for Z. That's the booth for G.
Yeah, man, I like that booth better. I like being able to see our producer.
Having the
visibility of the producers.
I wish they wouldn't have gone with this. I would think that they could have put something that was somewhat translucent and still would block the light. Yeah, it's no good. Plus, when just that visibility we used to have of seeing through all the way through, it just opened it up. So
yeah, I enjoyed being able to see him.
But,
and then when he starts talking in my ear, said, "Hey, you got 5 seconds." That's distracting for sure. So you're doing 1 hour, 5 days a week on the Peak?
4 days a week, Monday through Thursday. Dirk Hobbs has Friday.
Okay.
Which is good, because with Shabbat and everything, I'm glad I don't have to be here on a Friday.
Well, that's a blessing.
Yeah, and then the one crosswalk and the partners. But we're going to see. I haven't talked to Chris yet about, let me make sure we're still.
Do you have Scott? Are they checking on him right now?
They are. Since we live stream, we're always on. So.
So we're on now. Hey, everybody.
We're on now. I mean, it's not much watching, but people watching, recording. But yeah, I have to remember that we're never off the air. But with everything that's going on with Salem, to see what can we do to take Z to a much higher level, to do more local programming, and to really be a force for news talk here in the town. Because with Q going away, with that, that was most of the revenues, and so. So I'm hoping that I can be part of.
So Q was a huge part of the revenue. I don't know all the business stuff.
What Salem, when Salem would go into a town, like for the past 50 years, they would always get 2 radio stations: Bible teaching and talk, conservative talk.
Okay.
If they could get a third, they would do Christian contemporary, because it's a cash cow. But it wasn't really the heart of who they were as Christian conservative radio.
Okay.
But it it brings the money. So getting rid of those, which is why they were valuable to sell and pay off the debt. But once they go away, we're a debt-free company, but we also don't have a huge portion of the revenues for the salespeople and everything else. So what needs to happen is, like most of the Salem markets, is they're going to have these 2 type stations, and we have to make them big in the area. The G, because Chris is the national programmer for G, that's always been his heart. But Z has always been sort of to take the news feed from the national and not really pay that much attention to it. But now, especially with conservative news talk, is going to be big, because a lot of people are finally admitting they're conservatives. It's safe to say you're a conservative now. So the next couple of years, we can go really big with this, and I've worked to be the voice of the station. We're doing that event. The Pinery event is tied into Z and the Peak. So I'm hoping that this becomes, while it was a shakeup for Salem, I'm hoping it's a really good sign for us, for the Peak, and for me, that because we've wanted Salem to invest more in Z, right? We asked them. Now I think they have to, which is great. I think for everybody. So
sounds good.
Okay.
Can we have Scott?
We have Scott. Scott, okay. Yeah. Welcome back to the Peak News. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. You're listening on Government and Politics Tuesday, and we're talking about the golden age of the Pikes Peak region, coming off of Donald Trump's inauguration yesterday, saying this is a golden age for America. I love America, but what I really care about is the Pikes Peak region. And if there's going to be a golden age, it's going to be here. I'm Goldman, so let's have a golden age here.
Nice.
While we're here, in a moment, we're going to be bringing on House District Rep and Pastor Scott Bottoms, who's going to be giving us a legislative update directly from the Golden Dome. He was nice enough to step out of legislative session in order to do that for us. And he also has a big announcement. You may have heard it, but probably not. And we're going to be covering that at the end of this segment. But first, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors, all of our sponsors. Please patronize them and let them know that you found out about them through the Peak, because they're really the ones bringing this to you. I just get to be the pretty face on the radio. And always, Springs Dentist and Dr. Craig Summer, Holistic Dentistry in Colorado Springs, our platinum sponsor. But please patronize all of them. And we have an event, we have a nonprofit, in order to raise up especially youth to be ethical journalists and to plug them into internships here at the Peak and elsewhere. And we are having an event called Taste of the Peak. It's going to be at the Pinery next week, Thursday, January 30th. A lot of fun, food, a lot of great people are going to be there, a lot of VIPs in attendance, and it's going to be fun and activities, and then great speakers, and raising money for this program to teach local youth about journalism, help them break into a career in professional media, because I think we all realize we need to take the media back. It's time. That's something we must do. Without further ado, let me bring on Scott Bottoms. Scott, you there? Hey, Scott. So it's been about 2 weeks that you're into the legislative session. Is that correct? The 4 long months. So Scott Bottoms is HD. Tell me if I get any of this wrong. Is House District 15. He's also the pastor of church at Briargate. So this is, to me, I have the 2 people here today that are the most culmination of church and state. I got Jeff Anderson and Scott Bottoms on here. If anybody says those 2 things have to be separate, these 2 men say absolutely not. We need to bring our faith in. So Scott, what's been going on there under the dome? What do you have to report so far?
Amen.
Do you think that the Trump administration coming in and that sort of this wave of conservatism is going to temper the House in this session, or do you think that they feel sort of that they're the holdouts that need to represent that progressive liberalism that's been going on in Colorado for a decade plus? Mm-hmm. So what do you think is going to be the biggest challenge for you in this legislative session that's still going on for another 3.5 months?
Huh.
And as far as, is there things that you're encouraged by, especially there are no supermajority, things like that? Do you think that there's going to be things, because of the temperament in the country's changed, that may have shifted positively in your perspective?
Well, Pastor Representative Bottoms, it's good to hear from you and great talking with you. Hey, one of the things that the president talked about yesterday is an energy emergency and an opportunity to deregulate and really become energy independent. Now, Colorado has a tremendous wealth. If you want to talk about a golden age in Colorado, is there any chance that we have to kind of unhandcuff the energy development here in Colorado, or is that just a done deal with the legislature that we have? Well, and give us a sense, because Governor Polis, it seems obvious that he's already thrown his hat in to run for president 4 years from now, which means that he can't be entirely radical. I mean, he's got to at least appear a little bit more moderate. What is his take on energy independence? Does he seem to be a very much a green energy through and through? Mm-hmm. Mm.
Okay, hey Scott, we have about under a minute left. I wanted you to give your big announcement that now that you're starting your second term as rep, you're setting your sights even higher. Let us know what that is. Of Colorado. Oh.
Pastor
Okay.
Governor Bottoms.
Right Reverend Governor Bottoms. Scott Bottoms, thanks so much. Can a Republican win the governorship? I guess we'll see in a couple of years. You're listening to The Peak, and we'll be right back. Thanks, Scott. Yeah.
Good interview.
Yeah, you just did that. Okay, so
That was a good interview.
thank you.
Good discussion.
So page 3, golden age of the Pikes Peak region.
We're going to call it the Golden Men
Yeah,
age
thanks.
of the Pikes Peak.
The Watchman, the Golden Watchman. So, if you see on page 4, we're going to get into energy, military, social, war. Well, why don't we give sort of more of a let's give more of a.
We're in segment 3, is that
We're in
correct?
segment 3, yeah.
Okay.
So let's give more. We have 5 minutes there. More of sort of a vibe, a positive sort of vibe about why we think that overall the shift that's happened in the country will be good for Colorado. And then we'll get into the specifics in the interview segment. But let's do more of a sort of a 35,000, but more of a vibe, more of an optimistic vibe, I think.
Okay.
Whether it's faith or, just, I think we're all breathing a sigh of relief,
You bet.
you know.
How long is this segment?
It's just 5.5 minutes.
So, okay, shorter segment.
Yeah, this is like a monologue segment or a short report segment, so.
Well, I'll let you bring me in, because,
Okay.
but it
Okay.
works to give hand signals to
Yeah,
if something
so
happens.
it works, yeah, so I'll give you like a minute or 2 minute budget on something or a wrap up if I want it back.
Okay,
But,
sounds good.
Okay,
Governor. That takes a divine calling. Who would want that job?
no, I know. And,
Woo!
and can things shift enough in Colorado for a Republican to win that in 2 years? Could it?
How much time do we have on a break?
12, 13, we have about a minute and a half.
Okay. I gotta use the bathroom real quick too, and soon. Do we have a longer break coming up, or are they all like 2-minute breaks?
Well, no, they're usually, this one is 3, but we're 3.5, but we're already 2 in, and then we only have a 2-minute break
Okay,
at the next segment.
I can hold it.
Okay. So if you can hold it to the
God
end.
built me to be like a camel.
Okay. Will you be able to make the event at the Pinery?
Yes.
Okay, so I was talking to Matt today. I think that we're going to, because he was concerned, because he has crosswalk that evening. So what we're most likely going to do, we're going to do we're going to broadcast the peak from down there.
Okay.
Just so that I'm down there. But if you could pre-record your program for the 30th,
Okay.
then both you and Matt aren't tied up here until 6 o'clock because the event starts at 5.
Sounds good.
So if you can arrange that with him.
That sounds
And
good.
then I realized if I don't do the show live from there, I'm not going to be getting down there till 4:30, and the doors open at 4:45,
Okay.
and there's a lot going on, so it's going to be good. And we're still putting together vendors and silent auction items, and
That's
it's crazy putting together.
I'm getting
events.
invitations from every angle, man. I mean, it's good. The people
Yeah.
are helping, jumping in.
Great. You have other people
I'm
sending
getting a
them,
lot of
too? Okay.
invitations.
Well, please send yours out. Welcome back to the Peak News. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. You're listening to AM 1460 and FM 101.1 The Answer on Government and Politics Tuesday. And it is, as President Trump said yesterday in the inauguration, a golden age in America. And I believe that. I just think the optimism, I think that even if you like the previous administration, you got to be honest and admit that things are not that great as far as economy and other things. It definitely affects your life, and I'm a small government person, and I think that benefits everybody, and especially here in the Pikes Peak region, we do so much, right? We have all these nonprofits. We're really a group of people that likes to be independent and do things and not have the government do things for the most part. So I'm looking forward to it. And I want to give a shout out to one of our gold sponsors, Home Comfort Heating and Air. Hope that your furnace has been keeping you warm. Boy, has it been cold. This is real cold. This isn't like, normal cold, real cold. But if not, give Vern a call at Home Comfort Heating and Air, and at Home Comfort, if it's not okay, you don't pay. Vern's a good friend, lives out in Peyton with me, and he's our HVAC guy too, so please give him a call. He's been a supporter since the beginning. So we have Pastor Jeff Anderson. He is the liaison to the faith community for Congressman Jeff Crank, new Congressman Jeff Crank, and formerly for Congressman Doug Lamborn. So he's really the continuity in that position here in CD5, and a really special position Jeff's everywhere. It's not just faith, but since that's his background. But Jeff, during this segment, I want to talk about this golden age for the Pikes Peak region. You grew up here, Colorado Springs native. You've been around the world, so you've gotten to see what life is like in a lot of different places.
Right.
But you always come back here. How do you see, us in the next 2 years, the next 4 years, really experiencing a golden age here, specifically in our region?
Well, Watchman, I think that the golden age in Colorado Springs actually started about 4 years ago. But the most encouraging thing for us when it comes to culture, politics, is that local believers started living out their faith. Local conservatives started getting involved in local government. And our school boards are exhibit A of that. Now, we got to stay in the fight, my friend, because right now, we got some important elections coming up. So whether it's city council or whether it's school boards, I'm trying to say that the golden age for us really doesn't depend as much on the federal government level. Now, certainly we're all hopeful and optimistic that the federal government is going to be pulling the same direction with us, with President Trump. But it's golden right now because specifically believers, they found their voice and they're making a difference right here on our local level.
Persecution helps, right? The church has always grown with persecution, but we don't want to be under it. But I think, we here at the Peak, obviously, we want to share our voice, and we want you to share your voice. And we are a citizen journalist model. Please come join us and help us with this. But all the censorship that was coming down from the federal government through social media organizations, through corporations, I think this, freedom of speech, freedom of religion is so free right now. So, Jeff, do you think, because I'm somewhat of a skeptic, that we will take advantage of this time, having what we've just experienced for 2 years, that we will take advantage of the now and actually step forward as we the people and as the church?
If you listen to the panic of Senator Schumer, then you say, yeah, we're already taking advantage of it. Come on, man. 24 hours and yet 150 executive orders. Now, this will be the question. Executive orders are limited. We know that. And so now we have the House and we have the Senate, and we really need to do things right. We need to pass real laws. And one of the things that could be very helpful to us is if there's not just an executive order, but if there's actual federal legislation to set some standards for elections, that could really help us in Colorado. For there to be voter ID, for there to be signatures, for there to be some sort of federal standard that said it's only citizens and rightful people that are voting. And they're only voting once, by the way.
and very interesting because, we had this ballot initiative about same-sex marriage and whether it could be, was taken out of the Constitution. But now the federal government is saying, no, there's a man and a woman, there's only two genders. Yep. So that's coming down from the federal level. So there are a lot of things, that I'm not really a federalist, but I would like
protecting girls' sports.
Yeah,
protecting girls' sports happened from the House of Representatives. There's good reason for there to be optimism. Now, there's cynicism because we've seen our representatives squander these things before. But right now, there's more enthusiasm.
Right. Well, so what I would just say, we the people, we are being given an opportunity. Donald Trump is not our savior, but he is giving us an opportunity to be the Americans we know how to be. And I hope that we would continue, as Jeff Anderson says, continue the golden age here in Colorado Springs and the Pikes Peak region. When we come back, we're going to be talking more about Trump's agenda and how it impacts us here. Okay, this is just 2 minutes. Now we're on page 4, so we're going to click through, and hopefully we can do about 2 minutes for each one. So first, we're going to give your background, talk about what you do and how that's transferred over to Jeff Crank. Take the opportunity to talk about Jeff and your impressions of Jeff, and then we'll get into energy, military, cartels, God, and Constitution. Is there a website or anything to push people to that you want to? Do you have something for people to get in touch with you, or?
Crank.house.gov.
Okay.
Let me make sure that's accurate.
Okay.
What are they saying it is?
The Dow's up over 500 points.
Just unleash hope.
Yeah.
Unleash hope, man.
And
Give it to us.
J.W. Roth was at the New York Stock Exchange today. They actually rang the bell. Venue rang the bell at the New York Stock Exchange.
Did they really?
Yeah. How he timed it to be the day after the Trump inauguration, but I mean, they aren't that big a company in the scheme of things, but people are digging what he's doing, so.
Crank.house.gov, that's correct.
CRANK.house.gov. That's a website. No, is
That's
that?
correct. That's
So it's not an email address. So crank, www.
Crank.house.gov. That's where they can get all their constituent services.
Okay. Cool. Okay, well done. Welcome back to the Peak News. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. You're listening to AM 1460 and FM 101.1, The Answer on the Salem Network. And we're talking about a golden age in America, a golden age in the Pikes Peak region. And at the news break, if you were listening, the Dow Jones up over 500 points, a lot of hope, a lot of optimism across the markets. Why? Because businesses like to be unencumbered. Businesses like small government. I think everybody likes small government except people who don't want to work, who don't want to do anything and want the government to take care of them. But we have a real problem, folks, because we're Americans. We're not supposed to be taken care of. We're supposed to be taking care of others. We're supposed to be adding to the country, not taking from it. Let's remember who we are, and that's why I think Donald Trump represents that. Yes, is he brash? Is he rude? Does he overtalk? You know, is it tiresome at times? Yeah, absolutely. But you know what? The energy and the enthusiasm and the optimism about just being Americans, I love, and that's what I love. I love being an American. I've lived in Israel for 9 years. It's a great country too, but there's nothing like the opportunities that are here if we don't get in each other's way, and that's what this is really about. I want to invite you to join us. We're having an event for our nonprofit organization, which is the Peak News Educational Foundation, to help local youth get educated in journalistic ethics and practical training on equipment and plug them into an internship here. And we're having a big fun event at the Pinery on January 30th next week. Go to thepeak.news/events to get your tickets before they sell out. Come on down. Going to be a lot of VIPs, great speakers, great food, great fun for a great cause. So please tell others about it. We want to pack the house. And bring back the media. It's time now. If we're taking our country back, the media is part of that in a big way. So we have Pastor Jeff Anderson, the liaison to the faith community for Congressman Jeff Crank, our brand new congressman. First time we've had a new congressman in like 16, 18, 20 years, something like that, with Doug Lamborn retiring. And Jeff was also the liaison to the faith community under Congressman Doug Lamborn, actually created the position for Jeff. And we're going to be talking in this segment about how Trump's agenda, just things that he did immediately on day one, can have great impacts here in Colorado. But first, Jeff, fill in some people on your background and this position as faith liaison here in the Pikes.
Watchman, thank you for having me. It is the golden men era here in the Pikes Peak region.
It's the golden age. I'm not going to do that. Look, it's not about me.
We're pretty happy about the statements that were made yesterday because, you just stated it. Sometimes President Trump can be a little verbose, but you give him half an hour and give him an inaugural address. I don't think that there's going to be like any John F. Kennedy moments where he's like, ask not what your country can do for you, but do for your country. I mean, those are big, lasting moments. This was a businessman who set out an agenda that was super positive.
It was more a State of the Union than an inaugural address, as they're traditionally done. He really was all about policy.
It was beautiful, man. Yeah, I could memorize that speech, and I have to tell you, I'm super positive about it. And working for Jeff Crank, I'm telling you, Congressman Crank is over the moon. He said a year ago when I announced that I was going to run for Congress, he said I had no idea that we'd have the House, the Senate, and President Trump. He said he's just very enthusiastic and excited about what they can get done.
Right, and Jeff, know that Jeff comes from a media background. He did talk radio here for 14 years here, and so he knows the people, he knows the issues. He's a personal friend of mine. I'm just, as a freshman congressman, what do you think he can get done?
Oh. Number one, he's all over the news media. I mean, it's unbelievable
he knows how to work it.
Yeah. He's everywhere, yesterday and today. He's going to be on Sean Hannity tonight.
Really?
I mean, so unbelievable opportunities for him to to be a voice. But the second thing is he is really solid in his conservative and his faith convictions. And so here's a man who's eloquent, he's conservative, he's going to represent us well. And Watchman, he has worked really hard to get into the positions he has and continue some of the influence that Congressman Lamborn had. We definitely lose, after 18 years, we lose some of the influence of Congressman Lamborn being chair of key strategic military committees. So we lose some of that. It takes a little while to build.
Yeah, for sure.
But Jeff Crank stepped in and was able to do some national fundraising that really secured very strategic positions for him. He's just doing a great job.
And explain what you did for Lamborn and what you're going to be doing for him.
All right, so I do faith community outreach. My background is pastoral. I pastored a church here for 25 years. That gave me a lot of relationship with the faith community, pastors. And so when the congressman comes and says, we need to have a better relationship with the faith community, but they kind of stiff arm us, well, you understand what that's like. Because the churches and ministries, they say, we don't do politics. Well, I was able to come in and say, I already have relationships with these people. I have their cell phone. What do you want to do? And there's two things. We want to communicate the role that our office serves in the community, helping people navigate the federal bureaucracy. We can help advocate people who are dealing with Social Security or the VA or immigration. But then the second thing is we convene. There's a power of that office to pull people together and say, all right, what can we do to solve community problems right here? And the first example will be student suicide. Student suicide is not going to be answered from Washington, D.C. or even from Denver. It's got to be people, local people who have real solutions. And when we call them together at a congressional office, they come and they start acting.
Okay. Well, we're going to do like a speed round now. Not only have you been involved in politics and the faith community, but you grew up here in Colorado Springs. Mm-hmm. So I want to get your impressions on these things that Trump announced and did on day one. So first is big here in Colorado, energy. Trump said drill, baby, drill.
Yeah.
He declared an energy emergency. What's your take on that, and how do you think that can impact us here in Colorado?
Number one, it's a national security issue. We're going to have national reserves back, which is huge. We're not going to be dependent upon Iran and other enemies. We're going to be free. We're going to be wealthier. My gas bill is going to be lower. Our food bill is going to be lower because things
all
can
the transportation
it's going to be
everything. Yeah.
It's going to be helpful for everything. Even if the state of Colorado doesn't get on board, and even if the state of Colorado loses an opportunity to cash in on this, it's still going to be a benefit to all of us because energy is going to be more affordable.
Right, all across the country. Okay, freeing the military from the DEI and other social agendas,
That's
including
huge.
Back pay for all of the people in the military that were let go because they wouldn't take the vaccine or the shot.
Make our military a war-fighting machine. I mean, we just need lethality. And right now, we're bringing back warriors. We're just saying, all right, we're going to bring back warriors. And all of the social engineering that had been done in the last 4 years is being set aside. I tell you, man, that's going to help all of our 5 military installations right here in Colorado Springs.
People are going to be coming back.
Yeah, there will be people coming back, especially special operations, special forces. I mean, we've got a lot of, people don't know this, but we have a lot of special operators out of Fort Carson. And those are generally patriotic, conservative people, and they're going to come back and say, "Okay, I want to work for a commander-in-chief like this."
Like this, okay.
By the way, when he went through and did that parade yesterday, you could just sense the patriotism of all this military that is supporting him. Man, that was one of my highlights for the day, is the military parade where they're celebrating.
Okay, and of course, ICE, all of those who are trying to protect us internally on the border, he declared war against the cartels. Yeah. What's that going to mean for us overall and for the stuff that flows up here to Colorado?
All right, so that's huge for right here because, all right, Colorado Springs unfortunately became a hub for the cartel. We're right here on I-25. And the legalization of marijuana, Chaim, in Colorado brought those cartels to Colorado Springs. But now, as we declare a national war against those cartels and drug dealers, that's going to provide a lot more security for us.
And how about just the border itself? That feeling that we have a country back.
President Trump already went to the border today. His first day in office, he goes down to the border to make sure that thing's going to be secure. He's changing. Anyway, look, it's just very positive. There are people here who wonder and are feared. Oh, well, what about these law-abiding good people who are working? Nope. They're going after cartels. They're going after criminals. They're going to secure the border. It's all super positive.
Okay, and he ended the birthright citizenship too, so you can't just get over here, have children, and have them be automatically citizens
But
because
his first battle will be, and all of that I agree with, is good.
Yeah.
His first battle is, he also is a pretty common sense immigration reform guy.
Right.
So he's going to have to push back on some people and say, look, we're not just kicking out everybody. There are some people, and we need to increase the number of work visas. And there's some common sense things that he's going to advocate for.
Okay. Lastly, and this was really big, and I don't think I've ever seen this, even with Reagan and in a presidential inauguration. There was so much about faith, so much about God, so much prayer. Trump even talking about, the assassination of
God saved my life.
Yeah. So as someone who represents faith in the political realm, how do you feel about the inauguration yesterday and those statements as far as being a Christian in America?
Well, look, he just called the dogs off. He's not going to let the federal bureaucracy come after Christian parents that are raising their voice in a school board meeting or that are homeschooling their families. Not going to come after pastors. He's restoring freedom to us. And that gives us hope. It gives us encouragement. Besides the fact that, look, I don't know all about his personal testimony. But when he gets up and says, God saved me for a reason, that's pretty compelling.
What else? How do you feel? Well, let me ask this, because I'm a little bit of a skeptic on this. I deal with the church a lot and trying to get them involved. Do you think that after COVID, after 4 years of this administration, that America, and you've traveled the world in places where there's real persecution of Christians, we had a level of it here. Do you think it's been enough to wake the church up, and that this can be a renaissance, not just of America, but the American church, to re-engage with society, with our communities?
Yeah, it's been happening already for the last 4 years. This past election demonstrated that. Now, the key thing for all of our listeners, watchmen, you can't rest on your laurels. You've got to stay involved.
And how do you suggest people do that?
Get ready for a city council election that's coming up. Get ready for a governor race that's going to come up. Get ready for school board races. Stay involved in local. Everything is local. Stay involved locally.
Amen. That's what we do here at the Peak. We're hyper-local news talk here. Pastor Jeff Anderson, I want to give out the website for your new employer, Congressman Jeff Crank, which is crank.house.gov, crank.house.gov.
Hey, while you're there, sign up for his newsletter. It's the best way to stay informed.
And this is how you can, find out about all the different services and everything going on there. Pastor Jeff Anderson, thanks so much, and tune in to Jeff on 100.7 The Word. He does Crosswalk on Thursdays and Fridays. Thanks so much,
Thank
Pastor
you,
Jeff.
Watchman.
Okay, when we come back, we're going to have Tom Hamner. He spent over 2 years in jail on J6 offenses, but he was pardoned yesterday, and he is helping other J6ers find their road home. So when we come back, how you can help the returning J6ers.
Good
Thank
stuff,
you,
my
sir.
guy. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Sure.
I'm sorry, man, that I hope I wasn't too enthusiastic.
No, that was great, man. You know how to do great radio now. I love that you could just come on.
I'm such a
and do
hack,
it.
it's ridiculous.
What?
I'm such a hack, it's ridiculous.
No, it's good, right?
But when you're having a good conversation,
Yeah.
it makes it a lot easier.
It
Good
is.
work,
There's
man.
There's so much to talk about.
Enjoy the rest of your show.
Thank you.
I'm really, really happy I get to go to the bathroom now.
And everybody on Facebook found that out.
Oh, sorry, everybody.
Cool.
Bless you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a good one. See you soon.
And please, send out an email to all your to your loop, please, about the event, because we're about a week out. Thank you.
Good. Later. Thanks, guys. See you later.
Hey,
casual dining and private events. Their menu features the highest quality meats, cheeses, and wines, selected to complement each other in a symphony of flavor. Every Wednesday through Sunday at 616 South Gamon Street. For more information and book your table, go to vinewheel.com. Because wine and cheese are meant to be enjoyed together.
Welcome back to the Peak News. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. You're listening to AM 1460 and FM 101.1 The Answer. And today's episode on Government and Politics Tuesday is about the golden age of the Pikes Peak region. Golden Age of America was declared by President Trump. And one of the first things that he did was to pardon all of those with J6, or most of those, I guess. They're getting clear on that. But pretty much everybody who was accused or charged, convicted of offenses on J6 in 2020. And one of those people who served over 2 years in jail is Tom Hamner. We had him on the program back on January 6th, but we're having him back here today. Tom Hamner, welcome back to the Peak.
Hey, Chaim, thanks. What great news, huh?
Yeah, so and I want to say also, Tom is a sponsor of the Peak as a local business owner. So thank you, Tom, for helping to provide this news service to the community, and we love having you on. So with this pardon that presumably you're included in, as well as all these other J6ers, how are you feeling today after all that you've been through over the past 4 years?
I feel like the work is just done. I mean, it's really a wonderful feeling to know that, I think we have a presidential pardon along with all these other men and women that stood in the gap that day, and we all paid the ultimate price.
Well, you didn't die. So not the ultimate price, but in some ways, explain how that was harder. Yeah, and we talked about that a couple weeks ago, and we're following up on that because now it's become a reality. And I don't want to put any light in some ways, paying the ultimate price and not being alive, it can be easier than what J6ers went through. People that had no due process, people that went to jail and lost everything. And so Tom, there was a lot, and we talked about that in the last program, but there's so many people that lost more, and that Tom was able to keep his business, and so he's helping J6ers now, and there's this project, one of the projects he's involved in is called J6 Road Home. Tom, please tell us about that and how it's helping those who are now going to be released and free. Okay, so that would be the website and the email address. Colorado really stepped up. We did a campaign here from Salem and some local churches to send all these provisions out to those who lost everything in the wildfires out in California. But now there's an opportunity to help people who are government really abused, and we'll see if there's going to be any compensation for them, but right now it's really up to the community. So Tom, thank you for staying in the fight here. Thank you for helping other J6ers to get back with their life. Okay, and that's bye, Tom. Thank you. And that is letter J, number 6, roadhome.com. And now Jim Miller and the Peak Rants welcoming back Donald Trump.
going to give support, hopefully you're going to support being a political party you're going to bring and not weaponize the justice system against everybody. It says you're going to balance blind justice being balanced again, not angled one way or another. President Trump says it's the golden age of America. That sounds good. That sounds great to me. I'm ready for something being good. He said we're no longer going to be taking advantage of funding everything around the world and not getting any say in it. Because everything that's funded from the government, the system is funded by you, me, all of us, the overworked and overtaxed. No longer will our money be just tossed around everywhere. Everything government funded is funded by the people. I'm in. I like it. President Trump, I think, has the right idea. Well, I say welcome back, President Trump. Remember, if you want to get it, be they. I'm Jim Miller. I'm just a guy, and this is the P Grants on AM 1416 FM 101.1 The Answer. We'll be right back.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Very generous guy. Boy, oh boy, do these shows go quick. Day 2 of the week here on the Peak. How are you feeling about America? How are you feeling about our region? Are you optimistic? Are we out from underneath a cloud? Or as you know, or is it just government? And it's a bunch of promises. Well, as I will always say, it's really up to us because we need to remember that we are the government. It's not just that the government works for us, is that we are the government, and especially here on the local level, we can have a great impact. And one of the things that we're doing, in the realm of education and media is the Peak News Educational Foundation. We are having this wonderful event that down at the Pinery on the 30th of January. Please go to thepeak.org peak.news/events. Get your tickets before they sell out. We have Jason Jorgensen, a school board member of D11, who we're going to be working with for bringing our journalistic ethics program into the school systems. We have Heidi Ganal from Rocky Mountain Voice and former gubernatorial candidate. Chris Gould, general manager here and senior VP at Salem Media, and others. Jeff Crank is going to be coming in on video, and I'm going to be emceeing, but we have a lot of people coming, food, fun, vendors, auctions, and great speakers, and all to benefit our nonprofit foundation, and in order to give local youth a break to get into professional journalism. So again, go to the peak.news/events for more information. We air Monday through Thursday, 3 to 4 p.m., so we'll be back tomorrow for Faith and Family Wednesday. Sarah Watson of the Play Street Children's Museum here in the Springs is going to be talking about child development and how you can work with your children in creative ways. And then on Media and Education Thursday, we're having Corey Hutchins, Journalism Institute Manager at Colorado College and publisher of the Inside the News in Colorado weekly Substack newsletter. We're going to be talking about the state of media in Colorado and how we can get more youth involved in journalism. Stay tuned now for the Larry Elder Show coming up next. Check out our 170 plus podcast on the peak.news. The Peak, we say the quiet stuff out loud for such a time